Hi, and welcome to the presentation on recovery and resilience, brought to you by allceus.com. In this course, we're going to define recovery and resilience, identify factors that contribute to recovery and resilience, and identify the interaction of co-occurring disorders in the process of recovery and resilience. So what's recovery? Recovery is what happens when a person moves from a state of distress toward a goal that improves their perceived quality of life. Recovery is not the same for everybody. Their perceived quality of life. Recovery can be objectively and measurably defined, but it has to be done so by that person. For some people, recovery is very different and may mean very different things with regard to what they do on a day-to-day basis, what they consider a high quality of life, and what makes them happy. Resilience is people's ability to bounce back, pull out of a relapse, handle setbacks, and view problems as challenges. People who are resilient are those people who seem to be able to take on adversity and just deal with it and move on. Like the Energizer Bunny here. Contributing factors to people's ability to find recovery and be resilient include hope. When people have lost hope, it's pretty hard to go anywhere from there. They need to have hope that if they do the next right thing, then things will start to get better. They need to have hope that this too shall pass. They need to have hope in something. Have your clients really think about what hope means to them. What do they hope for? If this problem were gone, how would life be different? This is what they hope will come out of treatment. Hardiness. Hardiness is defined as people's ability to view things as challenges instead of obstacles. To feel like they have some control over the outcome, and to be willing to commit to doing the hard work necessary to achieve their goal. A lot of research has been done on people recovering from physical problems and hardiness, even back into the 70s. And they found that people with a greater sense of commitment, control, and challenge tended to bounce back quicker and stronger than those who didn't have as much hope or didn't feel like they had any control over anything, like nothing they did mattered. They saw it as overwhelming, or it was going to happen no matter what. There was no challenge to it. So control. Help people see that if they do the next right thing, then they can start to achieve their goals. Part of this means ensuring that you help patients have rapidly achievable small goals. As they start to feel like they're more in control, as they start to feel like what they're doing matters, they're going to be more committed and more motivated to stay the course. They need to have their basic needs met. Food, clothing, shelter, and safety. And they need social support. Now, when I say safety, I mean not just physical safety, but emotional safety from people who are overly critical, from people who are trying to inadvertently keep them sick, from people who don't want the best for them, and from the tapes that are in their own head of people who have criticized them or negated them in the past. So they need to develop positive social support. They can be their cheering section when they start feeling a little bit low or they start feeling a lapse in their commitment. Somebody who can go, all right, what's the next step? Let's not get overwhelmed here. What can we do now? Obstacles to recovery and resilience are repeated setbacks. If every time somebody turns around, they're having another medical problem, or they're having another legal problem, or they're having some other psychosocial problem, it can get very frustrating. And it can be like, well, what's the point? I'm doing the next right thing. I'm living clean and sober, and life still keeps kicking me in the butt. So we need to help them figure out what to focus on. a sense of powerlessness over everything. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people do a lot of things in their addiction that have overarching consequences. So there is a little bit of powerlessness about dealing with those. Now, they can either choose to deal with them head on or choose to avoid them. That's a choice. But some things they're going to still have to atone for. So how can they deal with that? How can they view that as a challenge instead of a punishment? Lack of energy or commitment to try. Why bother? Well, why bother? What are all the reasons that you want to do this? Why are you here? You can get into those real philosophical questions. What is it that is going to make your life better? What do you hope for? What are you looking forward to? Generally, people who come to recovery have at least a couple of things that are really meaningful to them. Their kids, their pets, their career, something. So they have something to look forward to. So you can help them see how recovery will help them keep that goal and keep moving forward toward whatever that positive thing is. And low self-esteem. If people don't feel like they deserve any better, if they feel like they're worthless pond scum, then they're not going to be real motivated to do a lot of hard work for recovery because they don't think anybody's going to want to be their friend and they don't feel worthy of breathing the air. So we need to work on all of these things, sometimes concurrently. So recovery planning. Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Halt. Hungry for food. Good nutrition is important. Hungry for attention. Social support is important. Angry. Angry is a huge relapse trigger for people. So helping people learn how to deal with their anger and their resentment and their frustrations. You may not be able to handle all of them at once. One woman I worked for sponsored somebody, and she told him, you know, you've got a whole bunch of resentments and things that you're angry about. Write each one down on an index card and deal with one every day. And he said initially it felt overwhelming because he had this mountain of index cards. But as he started doing it, it felt really good because he could see where he was whittling away at the pile. Lonely. People need to have a connection with other people. It may be only one or two other people, but we need to make sure that they don't feel like they're out there doing this on their own. And tired. Tired can be physically tired and sleepy and needing more rest, but tired can also just mean over it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. We need to help people address all of these in order to prevent relapse. They can do this physically through proper nutrition, getting exercise, and getting good rest. Now, that's great, wonderful. Not going to happen. Proper nutrition. People need to try to start eating something resembling healthy meals. We're not going to turn them into, super nutritious eaters overnight. But something besides Doritos and pizza would be good. Exercise. It doesn't have to be running a mile. It doesn't even have to be walking a mile. Going outside and working in the garden, or just kind of strolling around the treatment center, or there's a variety of different things people can do to exercise. Walk their dog, dance, clean. They need to figure out what's going to work for them. And rest. One of the biggest obstacles to people getting good rest is too much caffeine too late in the day. Helping people get some exercise so they get their nervous energy out and reduce their caffeine intake goes a long way to recovery planning. Socially, they need to have support of others and planned interactions to reduce isolation. Mentally, people can practice radical acceptance. What does that mean? Basically, the short version is that they accept what is what is. And they accept their feelings. They can be angry. It doesn't mean they have to act on it. They can be sad. It doesn't mean it has to make them suicidal. They accept life as it comes. They use thought-stopping activities in order to stop negative thinking patterns. They use positive mantras when they start feeling anxious or angry or resentful. They identify their irrational thoughts and counter them with more rational ones. You can Google irrational thoughts and you'll get the list of the most common ones. You also can Google cognitive distortions, because both are at play here. Google irrational thoughts and then Google cognitive distortions, and that'll give you like 20 different talking points to work on with your clients. Help them identify their locus of control and learn to identify what they can and cannot change. People with an external locus of control don't think they can change anything. It's just the world is going to go on and nothing they do matters. People with an internal locus of control think that they have control over everything. In reality, it's somewhere in the middle. There are some things that we cannot change, and getting to the point where you can radically accept that, no matter how much you don't like it, is huge in recovery. We can't change other people. We can't change the weather. There are certain things we just cannot change. And having the person identify, number one, how they feel about that, and number two, if they feel negatively about it, why does it bother them that they can't change another person? Why does it bother them to not be in control all the time? And we also want to help people with self-esteem building activities. Help them do things not only to get to know themselves again, but to try to figure out what they like about themselves. So you can approach this from the perspective of the wellness model. The wellness model says generally we have 6 areas: emotional, mental, physical, social, spiritual, and environmental. Within those areas is how we spend our energy, and our energy is finite. You only have 8 gallons of energy. So how you're going to spend that is up to you. If you spend 7 of those 8 gallons on emotional turmoil, then guess what? You're probably not going to be able to focus very well. You're not going to concentrate. Your memory is going to be bad. You're going to get sick. You're not going to have time for friends. And your apartment is going to be a disaster because you spent all your energy getting all worked up over something that you probably don't have control over. So, helping people see how wasting energy in certain areas is negatively impacting the rest of their life can be helpful. Likewise, helping people refocus some of their energy to other positive areas. Okay, when you get upset, maybe you can use that energy that makes you want to fight or flee to go work out. Maybe you can divert it to something positive. Maybe you can call a friend. Maybe you can work on a relationship. Maybe you can clean your house. My family knows if I get out the toothbrushes and the bleach just to stay out of my way. Energy is finite. You've got to borrow from Peter to pay Paul if you don't have balance. So be aware when you choose to use up a lot of energy on something. Ask yourself if it's worth it. R&R relies on effective distribution of your energy resources. When you're sick, think about when you're sick. Do you really want to spend a bunch of energy cleaning your house? No. If you're like me, you want to lay in bed and watch cartoons and eat ice cream. So when we're sick, our body is using a bunch of those gallons. It's using 4 or 5 of those gallons of energy to get us better. So we don't have as much energy to remember stuff and to accomplish tasks. If you're doing something difficult at work, you may be so focused on that that you forget things like eating, or maybe you were supposed to call somebody or whatever. After I had my children, and I know it's not just me because I talked to other mothers, we called it mommy brain. And the first 6 months, we weren't getting any sleep because we were up and down and up and down, and we had colicky babies and this and that. When you don't get enough rest, when physically you are just exhausted because you're not recharging, and everything else kind of goes to a handbasket. You can become more emotional, less able to concentrate, more forgetful. You get sick easier. So you're borrowing energy to try to stay conscious and take care of this little human being, but you're having to borrow from other areas of yourself. So maintaining resilience, encourage people to focus on the things over which they have control. That includes choosing whether or not to nurture negative emotions. We all get angry. Anger is a natural emotion. It tells us something's wrong here and you need to either fight or flee. You either need to do something about it or get the heck out of here. However, a lot of us get angry over things that really aren't worth the energy. It's like not that much of a threat. It was more of a threat to our own self-esteem or our pride. So they need to accept, or they need to ask themselves, am I going to choose to use a bunch of energy getting angry over the fact that the person in the 10 items or less lane has 13 items? I've seen people get really upset over that, and I asked myself why. Maintaining resilience means viewing negative events as challenges instead of obstacles or setbacks. View it as a challenge. There was one quote, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but I'm going to try, that I read that said, if you have not failed, you have not tried. What does that mean? It means that if you have not failed, you've not pushed yourself outside of that comfort zone. You've not reached out to try to grow a little bit. We all get setbacks. Elicit a commitment from people to meet the challenge. All right, this happened. It's going to be a challenge. How are you going to deal with it? A lot of our patients used to go home on the holidays and spend the holiday meal with their family, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah. So we would say, okay, this is a challenge. You can't control what they're going to do. They may be drinking in front of you. They may be doing this, that, or the other. It may be a tense, dysfunctional environment. Whatever the case may be, how are you going to handle that? What are your plans? And, okay, it's a challenge, but what are your backup plans in case it starts to become overwhelming? And you need to identify small objectives necessary to meet the challenges and provide reinforcement after each success. So then when they come home from their family gathering, we'd process it with them and see how it went. If they used the emergency number to call and had us come pick them up in the middle of their furlough, we would still commend them for identifying the fact that they were getting overwhelmed and they needed to remove themselves from the situation. More resilience. Teach people to delegate. This whole thing that addicts have and other people that is, if it's going to be done right, they're going to do it. It's exhausting. Delegate. Delegate things. I laughingly say that's kind of why I had children, because there was too much housework to do. And my children usually respond with, Mommy. But delegate. Say no sometimes. You don't have to do everything. People who are truly friends appreciate you for who you are, not what you do for them. And if you say no, they're not going to think less of you for it. So say no. Say, I really can't take that on right now. I mean, be nice about it. But you can set boundaries. Believe it or not, it's okay to set boundaries. Find meaning in activities. What's the purpose of doing this? Laugh. I love to laugh. I laugh at myself. I laugh at my cats. I laugh at my kids. Yes, I said at my kids. I laugh with them too. And they laugh at me. And I'm okay with that. We can't take ourselves too seriously. And laughing releases tons and tons of endorphins. So if you get a good belly laugh going, one of those where you can't hardly breathe and you've got tears coming out of your eyes, that's a good thing. Express yourself, either using words in poetry, singing, writing in a journal, art, dance, interior decorating. Express yourself. And take a break. Everybody needs downtime. Now, what downtime means to you is very personal. Whether that means being on a beach all by yourself or going out on a vacation weekend with the girls or whatever it means. But give yourself time to rest and recharge. In summary, recovery is not an end state. Resilience is required to sustain recovery. You need to be resilient because life's going to happen. And recovery, sustained recovery, is more about how you bounce back from adversity. Whether you relapse or whether you use some of those new tools or those strengthened tools and take control over what you can control. And help people identify the parts of the challenge that they can control and make a commitment to doing what they can. Accept the things they cannot change and the courage to change the things they can.